Hey, this is Sam Leonard. Now, in today's video, I've been inspired by one of the people I look up to, and this is Bob Proctor, and one of his famous quotes. And what he says is that you're the only problem you will ever have, and you're the solution. Now, I just want to dive into this because this is probably one of my favorite quotes, because in reality, this is how it works. You know, we need to understand that we are responsible for who we are, our growth, the things that happen in our lives, you know, our thoughts, our beliefs. And it's important to understand this, you know, for many reasons. Obviously, if we want a quality of life, if we want to be happy, but you know, there's many people in life, and you probably know people like this. You might have even been a bit like this in the past before you sort of started getting these awarenesses. And you know, there's people out there there's constant drama all the time. There's always negativity. Whenever you talk to them, there's always problems, and they always go on about their problems and what's happened in their life, and you know, their neighbour said this and this happened with their car and all these different things. And you know, there's not much depth to the conversation. They're just basically draining on you. They're just being energy vampires. They're just treating you like it's a therapy session, let's say. But you know, let's hold a space for them. Let's not judge them in a way. You know, everyone is at their different level of consciousness, but it's just important to be aware of these things. You know, this whole thing about blaming other people is always someone else's fault. You know, this victim mentality. You know, when you look at the levels of consciousness, then this is the victim mode, the bottom levels of consciousness, the bottom levels of emotional development, of emotional maturity. And until we come to these awarenesses, we start to grow. We start to realize that we are responsible for the things that go on in our life. You know, it depends how in depth you want to go. You can go into quantum physics. You can go into the law of attraction on the practical aspects of how these things actually manifest. But that's probably something for another video, because it's quite in depth. But you know, you can break this all down into scientific methods. But it's important to understand, because most of us probably would have seen examples of this. You know, whenever if you're negative, if you're having a bad day, then things just seem to escalate. You seem to attract more of the same. And you can also look at the people in your life, your friends, your family, your peer group. You know, you'll notice that the negative people will attract more negative people, and it's basically a competition on who's had the biggest problems, who's the biggest victim, and that's sort of the general extent of their conversations. And you know, it's just basically justification is a big one, because the mind will always justify our position, things that are happening, why things happened, why it's not your fault. The mind is very good at justifying. This is why when we do this work, this personal development work, we learn to become more heart and mind aligned. You know, so we're listening from the heart. We have more of that balance. We're using that intuition. We're using that gut feeling. And you know, the mind will always justify everything. It'll always justify why you're right. And we need to take a step back sometimes and think, well, there are certain psychological patterns, you know, that we run, these patterns of denial, these patterns of procrastination, all these different things we do that aren't very helpful for us. And it's important to come to these awarenesses to understand that we do lie to ourselves, that, you know, sometimes we need to take a step back and start doing the work, start really increasing our awareness, and really start to take responsibility for our thoughts. We are not our thoughts. We are not our beliefs. We can choose new thoughts, new beliefs. You know, that the labels that we're given up, we can strip them off. We can choose new ones. You know, we are a product of our environment, and we're heavily influenced by that, by our family, our culture, our countries. But I think until you start to, most people, as they start to get older, they start to realize this. They start to realize that we don't have to engage with some of the things that have been projected upon us. And, you know, most of us come to these levels of awareness, but some people are obviously still sucked into a lot of the mainstream narratives on various things. But unfortunately, you know, as we get older, it doesn't necessarily correlate with emotional maturity. It doesn't mean that you're gonna grow to new awarenesses as you get older. There's plenty of adults running around in teenage bodies out there. You know, it doesn't. Most of the time, if you're paying attention to life, life will give you lessons. There's lessons in life for growth. But if you don't, then it's like hitting your head against a wall. You're going to get the same things over and over again. And unfortunately, some people go to their grave not realizing these awarenesses, even though they're right in front of them. So what we can do to transcend this, or if you know other people that are stuck in these patterns, there's certain things that we can do. And this is really by taking personal responsibility, by asking ourselves the difficult questions of, you know, really doing the work, the personal development work of not just reading a book and think like, you know, that you're into personal development. You know, this is about really doing the work, really analysing ourselves, understanding our psychology, understanding our beliefs, understanding the labels that we've been given and we've given ourselves, understanding the psychological patterns that we are running. Are we self-sabotaging in lots of different ways? And most people are. And when we go down this path, we increase these awarenesses and we start to increase awareness of these things. We start to overcome them, you know, looking into our emotional development, things that might have affected that, things that might have happened in the past traumas, things that have happened, but really taking ownership for that. You know, we can always justify why we're a certain way, certain things happened, but you know, when you start to talk to more and more people, as I talk to people, my peers, my friends and colleagues who are in personal development, you realize, you know, some of the stuff that we justify in our past for being the way we are, it's a lot of it is just justification. You know, there's people who have been through a lot worse stuff than you would have been. There's always someone who's worse off, and some of those people, you know, the people I surround myself with, they've really grown past that. They've transcended that. They've done the work, and you know, that's truly inspiring. But it basically proves that, you know, if they can do it, then anyone can. So this taking personal responsibility of our thoughts, we are responsible for ourselves. We're not responsible for other people. We can influence other people by being the example and the invitation, but we are responsible for our health, our beliefs, our thoughts, our labels, as I said. And by just taking the first step, what is it that we need to work on? And when you learn to really tune into our intuition, we can really understand what it is, what we need to do, what we need to learn, areas that we need to develop and grow in. And I would also suggest, you know, who you're hanging around with is massive, because our peer group, our environment, it really influences us. Even if we have the best intention, the best will to do something, our environment will trump will every single time. So the people you're hanging around with, your influences, if you listen to the news, then yeah, you want to switch that off, because that's just complete rubbish and it's not helping you at all. You know, these different influences all around us, we need to be responsible for the things, the information, what goes on in our mind. You know, we are responsible for what goes on in there, and that stuff is going to influence you whether you realize it or not. Even if there's a TV on in the background and you've got some, you know, constantly negative news playing in there, you know, absorb yourself in positivity, but in the right way, not just pretending happy thoughts, but doing the work, spending your time with the right people, learning from the right people. These are the things that help us move, that make us more accountable. We start asking ourselves better questions. We start doing the work. We want to do the work because we're surrounding ourselves with like-minded individuals who are also doing the work, who are also growing, and that influences us, and we want to be better people as well because of that. And this is how we influence other people. We become the example invitation. We start doing the work. We start getting we start growing emotionally. We start increasing our levels of consciousness, our levels of intuition. We're basically growing. This is what evolution is. If you really look into evolution, And, you know, consciousness, the evolution of consciousness, this is what we're here to do. We're here to grow up. We're here to become our authentic selves and grow and take on board the lessons of life and grow into our true selves. And once you start doing this, the doors of life just start opening up. The opportunities, the businesses, the finance, you know, you're increasing your self-esteem, you're growing, you know, that you realize that most of the limitations are the limitations that have been imposed on you and that you're just justifying to yourself. And this take of this self-responsibility, this ownership, we start to transcend that, and really the world is our playground. We start to grow past that. And, you know, we start to learn this stuff, and we're not here to project on other people. You know, I'm talking about this, but you found my video. So, you know, I would assume that you're ready for this message. So, you know, we're not here to project our views on people. Sometimes it can be frustrating because some people, they're really not helping themselves. They don't understand this principle that they are their only problem and their only solution. And, you know, and we can be the invitation if people come see the work that we're doing ourselves, if they see us growing and developing, and they're like, well, Sam seems to be happy all the time, he seems to be developing, you know, he's hanging around with all these cool people, his business is successful, etc. Then people are going to want to emulate that. People are going to ask you what you're doing, and then you know, if people want the information, and then you can give it to them. But yeah, projecting your views never really works. You know, you don't know that person on their journey. That might be why they're supposed to be here. They might be here to be asleep, to, you know, to learn this lesson of a life of suffering and pain, because that's maybe what they need to grow forward. They might not be ready for the information you have. So be the example and the invitation, and take responsibility for yourself, and just start growing and developing. And it's such an empowering journey. It's such a we just get happier, and we just feel feelings of joy and love, and all the time. You know, obviously there's going to be fluctuations in life. This is why we're here. This is, you know, these are opportunities to grow. But as you embrace these lessons, you embrace the fear, you embrace the uncertainty, you move forward, you go with the bends in the river. You know, ultimately, if you believe we live in a happy universe, then you have to look at different negative events or perceived negative events in a way of a higher perspective. Where is this going to lead to? You know, what can I learn? What can I grow from this? And by taking this sort of outlook on life and really trusting in the process when you're going down this path, you know, your intuition doesn't fail you. It's there for a reason. It's part of our evolutionary process to grow and develop and grow into our best selves. So that's it for this video. I'll leave it there. So yeah, look up Bob Proctor if you haven't already. He's an amazing guy. He's been in this industry many years. So thanks for watching this video, and I'll hopefully see you on another one.